Hello and welcome to the show. Now, without the doubt, the Chryslus rocket is by far the craziest and strangest vehicle that you will find in Forza 6. I believe it is nuclear powered. No idea how the drivetrain really works in this. It's four-wheel drive. Quite how the nuclear power is delivered to the wheels is anyone's guess, really. But it's four-wheel drive, has 1,000 horsepower in this thing. It is mighty, mighty fast in a straight line. But it is also really rather large. Brakes aren't very good and can be quite understeery. So naturally, we wanted to find out what would happen if you take a bunch of them racing. All of the cars here are completely stock. Now, while it is stupendously fast in a straight line, actually isn't particularly fast accelerating. So the kind of get-go is not massively impressive. It's still, still not slow getting off the line. But yeah, it takes a little while for these things to really pick up speed. We make it around turn 1 okay. Unfortunately, that's when things start to go downhill. The real size of these vehicles, the length and the speed, kind of gets them into a little bit of trouble. As soon as one car clips the rear quarter of the vehicle ahead, that vehicle then can't steer and kind of just concertinas its way through the pack. There was a fair bit of bumping in this opening lap as cars shuffled about, but we all made it through. Amazingly, everybody survived, pointing the right direction to get through the first few corners. I got shuffled all the way to the back. I wasn't actually involved in any of the bumps. I just got stuck in completely the wrong places, stuck on the outside of cars and just had nowhere to go. So yeah, I found myself shuffled towards the back of the field. The car we are following, trying to get up the inside of a vehicle, manages to make it stick as the cars ahead get themselves in trouble there as a red car was briefly making his way alongside. I think the red car may have got a bump and ended up in the pit lane at that point. It was quite chaotic. A silver car completely outbraked himself into the final corner, ended up in the tyre bundles as well. We lost a couple of cars as we went around this first lap, as I get all sorts of wrong out of the final turn as well. Yeah, mistakes on this very first lap of racing when everybody was so close together could certainly happen. It was a difficult vehicle, certainly to kind of get overtakes done, much like we saw with the limo. Trying to get passes done was really hard, especially when you've got such awful brakes. The blue car just couldn't get himself stopped. I say thank you very much and get the pair of them just about as a little bit close as we come onto the back straight, but I do get my vehicle up the inside. Quite a few cars were having understeer, just getting caught out by the understeer coming onto this back straight. Further up, and there was still plenty of battles going on throughout the field. Often we've seen when we do these sort of silly challenges, silly races and so on, the stupider the car, the closer the racing that we get. We were not expecting these things to produce such close racing, but there we go, you see the couple of cars up ahead. They were fighting side by side out of the final turn. The gold car gets a great run out of that last turn. He gets himself to the inside for the first corner. Can be a little bit of a tricky first corner to get overtakes done. Not very much in the way of braking zone, and the gold car does, or you if you take that inside line, you will run wide on the exit. The red car tries to pounce, but you just can't hold it around the outside with these vehicles very often because of the huge amount of understeer. The blue vehicle is trying to make the most of an overtaking opportunity. He's stuck up alongside, but then you're forced a long way around the next corner. The car up ahead doing a little bit of a rally crossing there. Red vehicle still under threat. And one of the big themes, and a theme that we would see continued throughout the entire evening, is once you started battling, you slowed yourself down tremendously. You see how quickly, just over the course of a lap, I had caught up to join in this battle. I mean, of course, normal racing, as soon as you start battling a vehicle, you're going to be losing time. You're taking compromising lines, defending or attacking. But nothing creates such a gap as it does with these. As soon as you start battling with another car, you are losing heaps of time a lap. It is just huge amounts of time are lost when you're fighting, because the compromised lines that you end up taking, whether it be you're attacking or whether it be you're defending, are quite difficult to take because the cars are quite awkward. They don't slow down very well, they don't get turned very well. So you're just losing time, constantly losing time through these corners. Trying to hold it around the outside is not ideal because you don't have the grip, but I'm also forcing the other car to take a very, very tight line, so both of us are having to slow down, and nothing else I've ever driven quite loses as much time as these vehicles do when they were fighting. But it did make things interesting. Certainly for some of the cars that had a little bit of poor starts, they could catch up to the field when we were all battling amongst ourselves, and it made for some great racing. really very good at racing in these, which, as I said, we were really not expecting. So yeah, I was continuing to try and work my way up through the field, failed to get past the blue vehicle up ahead. The silver car tried to go to the inside, runs wide, he's got a wheel on the grass. I know exactly what's going to happen. I'm content with going for a cutback. The blue car runs a bit wide through that corner as well. Once more, I want to try and get 2 cars for the price of 1 in that turn. Can't quite make it stick though as we run onto the back straight. Again, this fight has slowed us down. In the course of a lap, the white and red car has almost caught up to the tail of this battle. It slowed us down so much it's allowed the gold and red car up ahead to escape away as well. I got myself to the inside at the end of the long straight. The blue car just ran in a little bit too deep. The silver car didn't quite hold it around the outside, but he does get the front of his car far enough alongside to have a look into the final chicane, and that is a tough place with these vehicles to try and make a move, stick around the outside. In the end, have to slightly yield the position on that part. These cars were still going at it. The gold and red vehicle had been fighting the entire race, and yeah, it was continuing very much so here. Red car still looking for a way past. Now, much like we saw with the limos, overtaking is quite difficult when you have such a large car. Trying to get an overlap, trying to find a gap to make a pass, essentially, was pretty difficult, and this red car was looking every which way he could to try and find a way past. But if you defended sensibly, going around the outside was so difficult with these cars that yeah, it just wasn't quite working. The gold vehicle though runs wide on the exit. That's the biggest opportunity. The red car was going to get, fires it up the inside, but then can't quite get it stopped. He's going to overshoot the corner ever so slightly, and they just ran out of room. A little bit of tag between the pair of the cars. They get away with it though, coming out the other side. And the front, unfortunately, our initial leader disconnected after the first couple of laps. In fact, you can see his car there on the track. This would be the battle for the lead in the closing stages. The grey car caught up to the yellow vehicle systematically through the race on the final lap, was looking, trying to find a way past, didn't quite get a good enough run on to the back straight. Has a big dive up the inside and manages to keep his car there. I'm surprised the yellow car kept it so well around the outside. We're seeing so many people struggling with holding that outside line. The grey car was then stuck on the outside coming in towards the chicane. Couldn't quite make anything stick through here, and just one more turn to go. And these cars, is not really an overtaking opportunity around that final corner, so the yellow vehicle would just about fend off the grey car for that victory. Very close final. Another lap and he probably would have struggled to hold on so well. And next race, we would head to the Laguna Seca racetrack. I had a little bit better starting spot in this one as we all fire down towards the first corner. Quite a strange sight, all of these vehicles, I will be honest. And immediately, we were trying to go 3-4 wide as I get myself, I just outbrake myself a tiny little bit. And in these cars, that is not forgiving whatsoever. So I had to take a little bit to the sand to try and avoid some chaos. A couple of cars did end up running out wide. My mistake was quite costly as I was going to be stuck on the outside for the next corner. That was one car going to find their way past. I think I got a nudge out wide. You really couldn't afford to be stuck on the outside in these opening laps because cars would just come piling past you when you were a little bit compromised. You can already see the breakaway the front three were making, and that was quite critical. If you could get out in front, if you could run away and not get slowed down by the battles, you were almost guaranteed a victory. Right, he didn't make any mistakes, of course, but yeah, if you could escape the battles and not get snared up in traffic, that was so helpful. The white and multicoloured cars were not quite escaping the battles as they started fighting one another. There were, again, a couple of bumps on this opening lap. A little bit more, I can say a little bit more suffering for the vehicles. Here, if you run wide, you end up on the sand and dirt and get slowed down more than you do at Silverstone in a lot of places. So So yeah, a few cars would drop a little bit further back, but they would still have some good fun racing amongst themselves. The silver Rocket trying to make his way around the outside. Never likely. It's quite tough to hold around the outside in a normal car, let alone in these things, ending up out in the sand as everybody gets a little bit connected on the run down the corkscrew. And that is one of the big difficulties with this car, because of the immense length. If something goes a little bit wrong, so easy for you to kind of end up in a lot of trouble. Second place was rather hotly contested for us. The leader was enjoying running away at the front. This was, this was the battle for second place. 3 wide into the final quarter, almost. People thinking better of it. Probably a wise decision, in all honesty, as is a lot of car trying to fit into a very small piece of tarmac. The white Rocket on the inside for the run down towards the first corner. This kind of kink on the straight is terrifying. The cars lift off as we see the multicolour vehicle all out of shape across the grass, manages to gather it all up despite sliding massively. I get the best run of the lot of them, managing to pounce on the inside, get 2 cars in one go, but as we all kind of close up, I'm again stuck on the outside and I'm immediately going to get repassed by absolutely everything. Not a fun place to be stuck on that outside. The blue car is also going to find a way past again. We're still going side by side. These are cars that don't like going too wide through the corners. And at the start of this race, we were consistently going too wide. Everyone was going too wide through these corners. These 2 vehicles had been pretty much side by side here for an entire lap, and I'd made up sort of 4 positions and then lost 3, or lost all of them pretty much in this one. It was frantic racing. Good fun. Absolutely frantic, though. This red Rocket made a good dive up the inside on the silver car. Came from quite a long way back. Couldn't quite make it stick, though. If you could time it right, you could get some fantastic cutbacks with these vehicles. Because of the understeer and the relatively poor brakes, you could get some really good cutbacks going on. And that was a very good repass from the silver car. Both of them end up in trouble, though, with wheels on the sand. Very easy to run wide, and sure enough, we were seeing plenty of cars having little adventures out at that particular part of the track. The red car still, though, looking for a way past. Spots an opportunity up the inside and will go for the positions. The silver car is all manner of out of shape, still just about holds his car on the inside. And this is we see that the slowing effect going on. You can just compromise the other car enough, but you both end up having to be really quite slow through a corner. The red vehicle then immediately outbrakes himself into the final turn. They're both side by side. The blue car that was miles back about 3 quarters ago was right in the battle as we come down the start-finish straight. The blue car is going to make his way up alongside the silver vehicle. The red car then immediately outbrakes himself again into the first corner, which is very easily done in these. I think pretty much all of us at some point had an adventure out in there. I certainly was one of them. If you do run wide, though, out of that first corner, you can sometimes get an amazing run down towards the next turn. The red car tries to fight back on the inside, a little too tighter a line for him there across the curb, would lose both of the positions. But places were changing hands really rather quickly. Again, the odd little bump and the odd mistake would drop cars out of this huge battle for what was now 3rd place. The turquoise car had broken free at the front and was running away, because as soon as we started squabbling like this, you were not going to be able to make any good lap time. Once more, we're trying to fit 3 cars around turn 1, and these are 3 giant cars around turn 1, and it wasn't quite the most enjoyable experience. We were just about surviving it. I very briefly had 3rd place, only for it to be immediately taken away from me. When you lost the positions, you had to be so careful not to gift more to the on-rushing pack, because one little mistake and everyone was keen to come flying through. I kind of look around sort of further back. This race was a little bit more spread out. We continued, though, this huge fight over 3rd place. I managed to get myself into 3rd, but could never really quite break away from this group, and we were bringing more and more vehicles into a contention. The more we fought like this, cars that had sort of poor starts and so on were catching back up to this train of cars. I was coming under fire from the white vehicle. He got himself to the inside as I was trying to not end up in the sand. This purple vehicle was busy looking for any which way you could find past the vehicles up ahead. Not quite coming into this final turn. The yellow car that was nowhere a lap ago was back up to this group. Cars behind him were catching as well as we crossed the start-finish line. These are, yeah, not easy cars to drive, but we're producing some bloody good racing. As a black and silver car misses the braking in turn one. As I said, pretty much everyone ended up out there at some point. The gold car had made his way up to challenge the white vehicle. In doing so, compromised himself, just left the door wide open, and the purple car was going to finally get that pass done. I was still just about clinging on for dear life in third place, and we have some more rallycross. Another place we saw a lot of cars. Again, I think pretty much everybody ran a little bit wide through there. The gold car managed to get himself to the inside, but that put you on the outside for the next turn, so he couldn't capitalize on the purple car's mistake, and yeah, that yellow car right back in the fight. And while all that was going on, further back, our leader had completely and utterly buggered off at the front. Started towards the front, managed to break free. Once you could do that with these cars, you were pretty much set, because everyone lost so much time fighting amongst themselves. You could run in clean air, you were going so much quicker. And while the second place car did manage to break free halfway through the race, was a little bit quicker, was so far back because of the early battling, he just had nowhere near enough time to work his way up towards the leader. It would become the battle for fourth place back here. Purple car eventually managing to check out ahead of this group. I outbraked myself into turn one. It caused a little bit of chaos. That's what dropped me back through this group. I was at the back of this chain. Now the white car was still trying to defend from all sorts of vehicles, looking for a way past on this final laps to train of rockets as we come up towards the second to last corner. The silver car gets himself to the inside. It carts the white car wide, but they're both slow. The gold vehicle's on the outside, but that is not where you really want to be. Into the final turn. It's 3 wide around the final corner. The yellow car gets the best run of all of them. I get a fantastic run as well. I'm completely boxed in though. Nowhere to go. The silver and black car would take fourth, head of the gold car in fifth, and one of the driver tires of the third place car would make a mess. The driver tire just turned into the wall after it crossed the finish line and blocked the track, so then everyone got broken cars. Well, the driver tires don't really like these rockets. A fantastic race, though, it started off as a race for second, eventually came a race for fourth. A lot of fun. That one. Our final race, we would go to the Yas Marina North Circuit. I had got the prime starting position this time around as we run towards turn one. I immediately had some issues though. I mean, we've driven these cars for a couple of races now. I still wasn't quite expecting the understeer from them, and my lovely prime starting position was ruined as I ran wide, lost first place, and then lost second trying to find the bloody white car yet again as a very sideways vehicle as they come across the curb. These vehicles weren't too bad with the curbs. Yas Marina has some vicious buggers for curbs. These weren't too bad around them. So some vehicles avoiding action. Not intentional, but a few cars got a little bit battered around in these opening corners. Again, as we'd seen at the previous 2 races, because of the sheer length of these vehicles and the terrible stopping distances and whatnot, it was very easy to just clip a car. And when everyone is running so close together in these opening laps, it was yeah, a little bit of a recipe for disaster. It could have gone a lot worse, though. You know, there were a few cars taking a little bit of avoiding action, ending up sort of in escape roads and runoff areas. But yeah, made it through pretty well as we come towards the second lap, and everyone's understeering off a little bit wide around the final turn. Considering, you know, the difficulties with these cars, they yeah, the starts really weren't too bad for this sort of thing. Again, as people were still getting used to this car and this track, there was a fair bit of understeer going on. Purple vehicle trying to make a run at the inside. You don't really want to get yourself in that position. The silver car's got a mega run coming down towards the chicane. This is a nasty corner though for these vehicles because they are so huge and don't turn. Trying to get them around the chicane was a real pain, and if you had company while trying to get around the chicane, if you were trying to go too wide. Again, that was another place where you lost just heaps of time to the vehicles ahead trying to battle your way through the order. The silver car here would make up the position, and of course in doing so it compromised the car behind, and he was immediately under fire again. We were having another rather big fight over second place. Once more, the leader was buggering off into the distance. Actual lap time wise, if we were running in clean air, we probably could have caught the leader and challenged the leader and so on. But as soon as we started fighting for second place, we were in a lot of trouble. I was going very, very defensive into the chicane. The white car couldn't quite find a way past there, but it was just a matter of about a corner. We'd slowed ourselves down so much the blue and grey car were once more fighting with us. The white vehicle in a little bit of trouble, was slightly slow out of the hairpin. The other two cars wanting to try and get to the inside. A big scary braking zone down the end of this straight, because these things are certainly shifting. They really do start picking up speed towards the end of this straight, and then, as I said, terrible brakes. So trying to get the braking point right down here was rather tricky, but it did give the opportunity for some impressive overtakes. The blue car gets himself up the inside, the grey car gets up the inside of the pair of them. I outbraked myself, managing to run wide, drop back in behind this lot. The blue vehicle just about fends off the grey car through that final corner. That's a fantastic overtake from the blue vehicle there up the middle, 3 wide into a really rather tight hairpin in cars that really don't handle, and still the blue rocket is fending off the grey cars the inside of turn 1. And of course the more they fight though, yeah, I'd made a mistake, the white car had dropped back, but the more the two cars ahead fought, that kept us right up there. You know, we're right in the fight. Eventually the blue car is just shuffled out wide, and now we're trying to go 3 wide down towards the chicane. I quickly realised that is not going to end well. Back out, try and follow the blue car through on the inside, although that's going to put me in trouble for the next turn. And guess what? 2 more cars were coming to join in our little fight, because, yeah, again, we had that lap and we were losing a huge amount of time. Further back, many colourful rockets were fighting for position at the hairpin. We were seeing a lot of cars, you know, as people were pushing the vehicles more and more in these close fights. We're seeing more and more cars running wide at the hairpin. The multicoloured vehicle just outbroke himself, lost 2 places in all of that, as the pink and green car managed to make his way around the outside in that manoeuvre. I was once again looking at the back of a blue rocket. A little mistake from the white car that was following us dropped him well down out of contention, but I, while slightly quicker lap time, could just not find a way past. I was looking at every which way for a way past, but the blue car was doing a fantastic job of defending. I tried to cut back on the exit of the hairpin. I was trying to get a good run down this straight. I stuck my nose out, was going to have a big dive up the inside, but the blue car went very, very late under brakes down here. He does overshoot the corner a little bit, as I get a better line through the turn, but he can keep his position. He's got better track position for the final turn, and these cars don't have the grip to go around the outside of the final corner. I spent a good 2-3 laps behind this blue, just trying to find a way past, trying to find an opportunity to pounce, and all the meanwhile, first and second were getting further and further away, and the cars behind were getting closer and closer. Speaking of first and second, this is the 2 leaders as they came onto the final lap. The gold car had led from the off, was coming under increasing pressure in this last lap. Got a wheel stuck on a curb, got a little bit dragged wide into the hairpin. Still, though, manages to get the cutback on the grey vehicle. The grey car had a huge dive, and for the second time in 3 races, the grey car would just run out of laps to find a way past the leader. Much quicker car, or much quicker driver, just didn't have time to find a way past because he got stuck up in all of the traffic earlier on, all of the fights earlier on. It was to get quite exciting for 3rd place on this final lap, as I was still trying to find a way past the blue rocket. And in doing so, the 2 cars behind had caught up. I was trying all sorts of silly maneuvers. I tried all sorts of brave maneuvers. I had a look trying to go around the outside. Problem was, in doing that, it left me exposed to an attack from the vehicles behind. I knew I had to try something. Unfortunately, that one there did not quite come off, as the purple car would find a way alongside. I would be on the inside coming into the hairpins. My mistake on this one, I turned a little too soon. ended up cutting the curb a little bit, so I let off the throttle to not to gain an advantage, which means I would lose the place to the purple vehicle. I was again under fire from the car behind, and this was the difficulty with trying to fight. Certainly in groups in these vehicles, you go for an overtake, very easy to lose a position or two to the vehicles behind. It was all about who could get the braking right. I knew what I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to get a good cutback. The two cars ahead ran wide. The vehicle directly ahead of me, though, sort of took a similar line to me. In the end, I gave him a little bit of a nudge. All of us push our luck around the final turn, ended up out wide. I would have to settle for not a particularly great final lap. The racing was good fun. While I didn't actually fare particularly well at all with these vehicles, the racing was a lot closer. An awful lot closer than we were kind of expecting. These are not easy cars to drive. They are giant vehicles. As I said, with the exception of the limo, these are probably about the largest vehicles that you can race with, and the limos are a hell of a lot slower. These things have got some serious acceleration, and they just don't stop. When you come to the end of certainly the longer straights, these things have real trouble getting slowed down. Overtaking was quite tough, and once you started battling with somebody, you lost a heap of time. So all of the races we saw the leader check out early on and vanish up the road, while in two of them he was getting caught at the end. Everyone just ran out of time to find a way past. It was perhaps a little bit more contact with these than we have seen from some other stuff as well. There was a fair amount of trading of paint going on with these cars. Perhaps not too surprising with the difficulty in driving them and the sheer size, people just not realising quite how long their vehicles are. There was, a fair few bumps and scrapes. Nothing too major, apart from the driver tires derping out. Nothing too major though. With the vehicles, I don't think any cars really finished the race without scratches or in pristine condition. It was surprisingly fun, though. It was surprisingly fun to go racing with. Difficult, yes. Take a bit of getting used to, most certainly. I mean, even after our 3 races, we were still having quite a lot of understeery moments and scary moments under braking. But, surprisingly close racing with these really rather ridiculous vehicles. However, that is it for this video, guys. Thank you very much for watching, and until next time, goodbye.